on the man of the hour now, the one and only pitching ninja, Rob
What is
Friedman.
happening, sir?
Oh, that is my line, Rob. How dare you? No,
I've been
great to see
copying
you.
you. I'm going to steal your whole shtick.
No, it's great to see you, man. How you doing?
Doing great. How about you?
This is a crazy event, and I'm just so thrilled that you can be a part of it.
Well,
Uh,
I'm happy to be here.
Obviously, y'all know Rob Freeman, otherwise known as Pitching Ninja, one of the staples of baseball Twitter for years. I believe you started in 2014. Is that right?
That is correct.
Oh man,
I feel really old.
you and me both. But you got some amazing merch, or I guess stuff behind you. Obviously, you have the banner, which is
Right
amazing.
there.
Yeah, you got that one, and then I love the ninja peeking out in the. Is that a baseball diamond you got?
Oh, dude, that is sick. So a guy I work with at my real job had it made for me, and underneath it is a bunch of Greg Maddox cards. So it is a glass over it with a bunch of little ninja stuff
Mm-hmm.
and Maddox cards underneath it. All
Oh my
Maddox cards.
god,
Yeah,
that's incredible. And you got
isn't that
this.
sick?
You got this baseball glove underneath.
Oh yeah, right there. That's I bought, like, the room was looking kind of dull. I wanted to get a big baseball glove couch, so I did.
I mean, why not, right? And you have I think is that a blanket, a baseball themed blanket too?
It is. We are going to look at
Yeah,
my room. I have a
I love
bench
it.
made out of baseball bats here.
Yes.
I got from Cooperstown.
Okay.
This banner, which some people have asked me if it's for sale, I just bought it because I wanted one. So it is not.
It's
But
why I have this, right? So
yeah,
you can't sell that, but
dude, part of the cool thing about starting anything, like literally maybe the coolest thing, is the merch for yourself. Like, I don't give a
right?
crap about
Exactly. Oh,
that other
I've
stuff.
got everything. I got another one here. We got the pitcher's mug.
Well, I got this hat that I haven't
Right?
sold. Like, this is a white camo hat
That's a good looking
thing.
one.
I
I like
know, it's
that.
sweet, isn't it?
Yeah. And I like the whole setup you got now. So you got a boom arm, you got the pop filter for the Yeti. I mean, I've got my Yeti here. I love it. It's fantastic.
Dude, we're just pros. That's all I can say.
So okay, I really want to go into this because I mean, I made this a little bit selfishly because I just want to talk to you for an hour. Last year I had to share you with Eno, who's amazing too. Now I get to separate both of you, which is great. So I just get to hang out with both of you for a full hour. But I kind of want to go through, your whole process. I mean, it's been 7 years now that you've been doing this, and it doesn't just happen. It's not something that you just kind of hope it does, and then there it is. You don't become the influencer that you are now in a month or a year even. And this takes there's a whole process involved, and I think that element gets kind of passed over with everything else that you're doing. And I think that's a really, really important part of it. I'm fascinated by this stuff. There's a lot of intricacies to it that just isn't talked about enough. So I really want to go into it. And I think it's actually important to start at the very beginning about you, because it's ultimately you that
It's all
is the
about me, man.
representation.
It is just all
No,
about me.
no, but it is though. If it wasn't you, it wouldn't work, right? And it's not necessarily about the brand; it's about the person that's being represented inside of that brand, right? So I want to start at the very beginning. I want to talk about Rob Friedman. Did you ever play baseball? You must have.
Yeah, I played baseball, but I kind of like, and this is actually a great story. It's like, now, I wasn't a stud baseball player. I mean, I was okay for where I, grew up,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't like a stud. And that was part of the reason when like, to me, the whole thing started when I was always a baseball fan. Like, I grew up a
Right.
baseball fan. I wanted to be those guys that you see on TV. Just wasn't, didn't put in the time, wasn't good enough, whatever it is. But then when you have a kid and your kid wants to play baseball, and then you start coaching other kids, like, to me, the whole thing was, I just wanted to learn everything I could. And there was, it happened to be at a great time where all that information is shared out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, this was back in, 2012, 2011, even before that, 2010. We were on these old message boards, Let's Talk Pitching and stuff, which was kind of legendary at the time. You have guys like Ben Brewster on there. I think Alan Jaeger, Eric Cressy was involved, Lance Wheeler, Kyle Bodie. So this was all those guys before anybody was all that cool. We were just asking a lot of questions. And
Right.
I was asking questions to learn for kids, like saying, hey, I don't want to teach what I was taught because things have changed and you can figure a lot of this out.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
so I started asking a lot of questions, and the one difference is a lot of people use social media for like trolling, and they have an agenda and they want to like get their point across. To me, I'll ask questions and I'll grill somebody about something, but it's not because I have an agenda. I want to find the truth and not the
Hmm.
marketing spin. So we just like, I would disagree, show videos and stuff. I really started from a coaching angle
Sure.
and learned as much as I could.
Definitely. I mean, so right. So you came from a coaching angle. I kind of want to talk about that really quickly. I coached for a year a travel baseball team. I also did like pitching lessons on the side. I think coaching. Okay, I coach basketball and baseball. It is so much easier to do basketball. It's not even close. I actually do that now instead of baseball because it's like a couple hours and I just go to the gym and don't have to bring anything. Baseball is a completely different animal. And as a coach, I mean, how long have you been doing that now? Has it been 10 years? More than that?
Yeah, some more than that. 15 years probably.
So,
And it's so different. Like you're right. Like, but the funny thing is, I coached basketball a little bit because
mhm,
it's just mostly because like I taught law school back in the day. Like I like teaching stuff and learning how,
right.
because I find I learn more if I teach it. Basketball, though, it was tough because I suck at basketball. And they were wanting me to coach because they're like, oh, yeah, he's really good. Like, dude, there were players on a 10U team who were sitting there helping me out with zone defenses and stuff that screw that. Like, I was terrible.
No, I was very lucky because I had a good friend of mine that I grew up with who encouraged me to coach with him, and this is when I was I guess like 28, 22, 23. And I wasn't a dad. All the other coaches were just dads, and they just had to be there because they're a kid or something like that. So all the kids instantly like listened to me. I didn't have that moment of like, are they going to trust the coach or not? Like, oh, you're not a dad. Like, great, okay, let's go. And like I'm 6'4", so they instantly thought I could dunk. I can't. But I mean, it just made the whole process easier. But I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is, you kind of are coaching a bit still through Twitter, right? And the skills that you learn while coaching kids are applied there. It's about asking questions and being the role model of like, hey, you're gonna have questions and it's okay to ask them. I'm asking them all the time, and you don't have to feel like you know everything because then you won't progress further, right?
I totally could not agree more. Like, that is still the angle I like to come at everything from. Yeah, I view it as a fan. I view it as like entertainment, but I also want to grow the sport, but also help kids who can't afford to get lessons or are being taught the wrong thing, or maybe their
Mm-hmm.
coach only knows one way of doing something. I just want to show them different ways, so maybe they can ask their coach questions and say, I noticed Jacob DeGrom does this, or Garrett Cole does this, or hey, you're having me move like like this guy, but someone like Marcus Stroman is more of a fit for me. Coaches try to do one size fits all, I find. And if
Mm-hmm.
you watch, the biggest thing I try to get across is there's so many ways to do it.
Right.
And I try to, that is like my goal. Like, I try to take it from a coaching angle while still not being like, you can do it and overdo it. You can be really boring. And like, I'm not selling coaching. It's not what I want to do. It's not
Right.
like, but so I try to be neutral and try to bring different perspectives, because in the end, there are a lot of different coaches that do a lot of good things. There's not one coach that does it better than anybody.
Sure. Right. So just really fun. I mean, what is the best mound visit that you've had as a coach?
That I'm trying. It was with a player who I could tell he was nervous, and I think I just went out there 2 seconds and I just looked at him straight in the eyes and said, "Just don't suck." And he started cracking up laughing, and it worked. Like, it sometimes it's like little tiny things that gets the pitcher. I don't care. Like, I'm not it. I want them to succeed, and I want to take pressure off. Like, to me, putting pressure on because I want to win a game is
Right.
not a good, like, I don't care. Like, I have all the
Absolutely.
trophies I need, which is none. Like, I don't need it.
Well, yeah, that's not why you're doing it. Exactly.
No, like, that's the worst. Like, if you're doing
Right.
it for you, that's I don't know. I mean, I guess everybody's got their. It's just not what I'm doing it for.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember there were like two really good friends on this team. One of them was pitching. He's a very like shy kid and very, soft spoken and stuff like that. But he always threw strikes. Like this was his best thing. He always knew to throw strikes. And he just walked a guy in 4 pitches and got 2-0 in the next one. Call a mound meeting. I go to him, I'm like, Isaac, like, what are you doing? Like, is everything okay? He says, yeah, I'm just not concentrating. And I'm like, okay, like Jeremy, tell him to concentrate. Isaac, concentrate. All right, okay, Jeremy. And he goes and like strikes out the next guy in 3 pitches. And like, come on, guys, like concentrate.
See, but that's one of those things. Like everybody ticks a little bit differently. Like one guy is too, you might have someone who's really intense, and your job is to either unleash that or dial it back for them. You might have another guy who's like, you got to understand that a lot of these guys get nervous out there. Right. And your job then is to take the pressure off them, or a guy doesn't concentrate. Like exactly right. You got to take the picture you got on the mound and not what you want to have.
Exactly. So, okay. So I'm going to actually bring it to the real topic, which is establishing a brand on Twitter. That is the real thing. Sorry for that. I thought that was a fun discussion. It's kind of like behind the curtain, seeing kind of the origins of where you come from as the pitching ninja. So at the very beginning, a lot of you guys know that logo behind Rob's right shoulder.
I'm moving the opposite way.
Or on the hat.
Yeah, I'm not good with it. Yeah.
But it wasn't that originally. I remember the pitching ninja with the star, right? I believe the throwing star on it. Did you make that? Was that like you? Did you just one day go, I'm going to do this? I'm going to set it up all like that?
Hell no. I am terrible with logo. Like I know what I like when I see it. But Kenny from RotoWare just contacted me out of the blue and he said, I got this idea. And I was like, I mean, I'm game. I'll take a look at whatever you got. And he sent it over and I was like, that is like when I do things, if I'm doing a logo, it ends up being really complicated and like it's way too busy and all that. And he is the master at simplifying everything. I've got a RotoWare shirt on, if you can see it.
I love that one.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah, all those proceeds go to the Lost Boys. Shout out Lost Boys.
Yep.
But no, he approached me with it, and the rest is kind of history. Like, love the dude, heart's in the right place, does great work, and just big fan.
Oh, yeah, Kenny's wonderful. But right, so at the very beginning, like you said, okay, I'm going to start this Twitter account. What was that process for you? I mean, did you make that? I don't know. What were the first steps you took?
The first step, so the coaching stuff is a great jump off into this, because really why I started the Twitter account is I knew I wasn't going to be coaching for forever. And you can only reach like one team if you're coaching. So what I wanted to do is I was lucky enough to ask a lot of questions around from really good people who helped me out in my understanding. I had a unique position of having a lot of time to do it. Like a lot of people just don't have the time to do it. They get outside coaching, spend a lot of money. I went through all the rat holes, bought all the products that they sell. This is the quick fix to doing whatever. There's no quick fix, by the way. But then I tried to take that knowledge and just put it out there on Twitter. So that was my original goal for doing it. Was I just wanted to help as many people as possible, not with a plan to do anything. Like, I had zero plans to make this a big account, and just kept tweeting. The one thing I did was I tried to learn something new every day and put it out there on Twitter and try to get better all the time and do something every day. So it wasn't like taking a week off and throwing something out there. I wanted to be consistent. Every morning, first thing I did was tweet something that was hopefully interesting to people, and just did it every day and tried to get better and better at it.
I mean, consistency and anything that you're trying to build is everything when it comes to podcasts, when it comes to writing, obviously Twitter accounts. Like, that is the thing that everyone will talk about. And as long as you're focusing on making it better every time, as you're saying, I think that's a really, really good takeaway from that. But I'm just trying to get like the mind of Rob Friedman as you're doing this. Were you thinking, when you first started, okay, I'm just going to post a GIF, or I'm going to post a video? Was there any sort of, journey ahead that you can envision for how the content will come and what kind of stuff you're going to do?
Hell no. No. Like, I still don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I seriously said I do try to do something every day, but most days I wake up and I'm not sure what that thing is. Like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and go, you know what would be cool, doing a Bob Gibson thing today.
Sure.
I don't have this master media schedule where I'm going to put something out and do something. Then it was mostly like real questions I had about, I'd watch interactions on Twitter and say, well, let me dig into it and learn something and show examples of mechanics or pitch grips or whatever it is, so that we can have a debate. And there used to be a really tight knit group of folks that were coaches that would do that every day. We would try to learn something. And, you know, Matt Blake was one of them, one of the, like what I would consider my crew of folks. Eric Cressy, Alan Jaeger, all those people that I mentioned, we all got on Twitter and did a lot of that stuff. And it ended up, a bunch of them are with MLB teams now. So this little crew that we had debating mechanics, you don't know at the time who's watching or if you're really doing it right. And then everybody's sitting there going, this guy seems to know what he's doing. And they get swooped up by some team, which is really pretty awesome.
Oh yeah. Fantastic to see it. So there's no content schedule is what you're saying.
No.
But every single year you put out these amazing things, especially in the off season. There's like, it's Pedro Day. It's, here are my awards through the year. I mean, this stuff's amazing.
Yeah. Like the awards, I mean, I do them at the end of the year. It depends on what happened during the year. Like I don't have this predetermined thing. Pedro Day is when I wake up and I was like, you know what? I haven't tweeted Pedro in a while. So I'm going to put him out there. Or I just thought of somebody that moved like him or did something like him and thought every day could be Pedro Day. Who am I kidding? Like if I did that,
true. Live every day like it's Pedro Day.
I might have more followers if I did Pedro Day every day.
Okay. So going back still to 2014, 2015 or so. So I remember last year we talked a bit about, I outlined, my process for making GIFs. And by the way, if you're curious about that, follow Ben Brown's presentation on Sunday, The Art of Nastiest Pitches, 11 a.m. Ben Brown, I gotta say, has really embraced that whole thing, and he's I cannot wait for that presentation. But yeah, back in the day, it wasn't easy making GIFs, and I'm curious how your process was, because I feel like we had two different approaches to it.
We did. And actually your stuff was one of the early things that I followed because we come at it from different sides, I think.
Yep.
But I loved what you're doing. So and you used to send me over, and you still do. Like if you see, if there's
I'm like, here's a slow motion grip release. Here you go.
Yeah. We're one big community and I love that stuff. So I was watching that and then saying, this is a really good way to teach because, back then, do you remember the the scratch reels that they had for a little while on Twitter where you can actually go back and forth on the until they uploaded videos and stuff. It used to be that was the only thing you can really do. So that was kind of cool to go back and forth in mechanics, and that was a big thing for a few months until they got rid of it. But it was really like I just experimented with different ways to show stuff. I think back then it was mostly using online tools like EasyGIF to create GIFs out of videos that I just screen capture or had for whatever reason and tried to edit them.
Nice. And then you did really good ball trails. I remember a couple years ago you started doing that. Was that with Adobe Premiere or was there something else you were using?
It's with Adobe Premiere. And so that was one of the things that I really wanted to show was I get bored really easily. Like my attention span is about that big, which is kind of helpful on Twitter, I guess. Mm-hmm. So I get bored and I try to do different things. So I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you put trails on balls to show how the pitch moved? Because sometimes people are like, well, that wasn't that nasty. I'm like, no, it really was. And it was also a way to differentiate if I'm doing an overlay or something to show how they move. I've experimented with different stop action ball trails too, which I think is kind of cool so that you can actually just take the ball and view it through points in time to see how it moved. It really depends. It depends on what the pitch looked like, what the video looked like, and what I think makes the point I want to make. If there is a point, who knows? Sometimes
there's what was it? The red ring of death?
Yes, the circle of death.
The circle of death, right? Because red ring, of course, is 360 stuff, but the circle of death, right? Yeah. Love those.
So and I still use those every once in a while, but And I think some pitchers really liked it. So what I would do is draw a circle basically where basically the decision point would be and show how those balls pass through that circle and how hard it is to hit. Basically, my pitching account ends up showing everybody kind of how hard it is to hit a pitch, which makes hitters look better.
There somehow. You go. And I remember a very good one, which was pitch separation on like a curveball in the dirt. And, you have all these fans shouting, how could he possibly swing at that? And you're like, this is why.
Dude, those are my favorites. Like everybody on their couch thinks that they can hit as good as, anybody. They're going, oh, why did he swing it? Like people are yelling in the stadium. That drove me crazy. You get the drunk fans that are yelling at hitters. And I'm like, do you really think you could do better if you were up there? So I try to show them why they can't. Like this is what happens. This ball's coming in at 98 miles an hour, and this other one's in the same tunnel as that. What would you do? And they're like, oh, shit. Am I allowed to?
No, hold it back, Rob. You can do this.
Yeah. All right. I can do it. I'm sorry. I'm turning into Eric Sim all of a sudden. But yeah, the key was to show to show basically why hitting was so hard. I did that recently with, somebody was watching Kumar Rocker's outing for Vandy and saying, how did Duke swing at 19 sliders to K? They had 19 Ks all on sliders. Why was that? They stink. They should have laid off. I'm like, yeah, it sounds really good to lay off, but there's no way you could.
Right. It's impossible. Have you tried I haven't done it for years, but I want to go to a batting cage. I want to actually film us, like some of the pitcherless staff and everything, going to a batting cage and seeing how bad we are at these things at like 70 miles per hour or so.
Oh, dude, it's terrible.
Yeah. It's so hard. It is so hard to hit a 90-mile-per-hour fastball. And we're like, oh, he only throws 90, whatever. And it's like, no, that's really, really good. And to your point about like just fans being, I don't know, annoying while watching. I remember actually watching Rays Yankees, socially distant, don't worry, like at a bar standing away from everybody. And there was a clear pitch that is just like this far off the plate. You have the strike zone on there and the ball is so out, and guys just yelling at the TV, like, how could this, it's clearly a strike. And it's like, so I love your gifts to say like, stop that. No need to be a blind, irrational fan. We can all enjoy the sport properly and still have our fandom.
That is a great point, because sometimes I give umpires a hard time, or often I give umpires a hard time. It is like, I've called games and scrimmages and stuff. Oh, I stink. Like I'm terrible. I got yelled. I was doing a scrimmage against another school, and fans behind me from the other were like, that's not a, I'm like, dude, I'm getting paid nothing. And I admit I'm terrible at it. Like it's not easy to do. Yeah, I had no equipment on either, so that was.
Oh my God! Yeah, we actually are going to have two different presentations just about robo-umps in this. We have one later today with TZ Zenka. Then we have one, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday with Matt Kovac, talking about electronic strike zones. So definitely tune in for those, and you'll see, I think, maybe some varying opinions about should we institute robo-umps or not. I think it's a very interesting conversation. Where do you lie with it? Do you want robo-umps?
So I go back and forth. And because it's my lawyer instinct, I tend to not have an opinion, but I try to take other sides. Sure. My instincts are what I try to split the difference, and I would say having some kind of cue in an umpire's ear that ball was likely in the strike zone, where the umpire can overrule it. So it's not pure technology. Like if the umpire saw something different, if you saw a pitch that looked right. You can overrule it, kind of like, I don't know, like
a curveball that goes jumps into the dirt. At the bottom of the zone, you don't want that.
No, like I get the thing. I love ring ups too, man. Like I love the attitude that umpires bring to the game. I think that's part of the fun that at least I get out of watching it, but I also don't think it's all that fair for me to be watching at home when an umpire misses something by a lot, where the speed of the ball is going. Like it's way beyond what anybody thought when they invented this sport.
Absolutely.
So giving them some help so that they're not looking like fools. Stallman isn't throwing a ball right down the middle and the umpire just missed it and called it a ball. Like, that shouldn't happen. Right. And if he had some help, he might say, yeah, I blinked. One of those things.
Yeah. I understand your answer comes from the place of being able to make Tom Hallion gifts still. I get it completely. But no, I think you're on the right track here. Like, having that indication, like, that's an obvious strike, make sure you call that. And that's an obvious ball, make sure you don't call it that. That's all you need. Everything else can still be in place, but just some backup that they're waiting. If they ever have some sort of question, they can essentially ask it, and then they'll be like, cool, okay, great, I got the right thing. I think that would be a massive help to the game.
I see that. I totally agree. I think you lose something if you don't see Tom Payne killing somebody. I mean, I lose something. Shoot, it would make my account much more boring. Or Hallion's.
Sorry, not Hallion. Yeah,
no, Hallion. Absolutely.
No, got the
my two favorites. Yeah. I mean, like I missed out having Hallion not do a game last year. I mean, I love watching him.
That's so good.
Is that weird?
No, of course not. That's part of the spirit of baseball.
It is.
And it goes into like the whole the ballparks being different. You have to have character to every element of the game as much as you can. Pitchers showing emotion is another thing that you do as well. And I love that stuff. I love like the humanity of the game, of being unique and different, and having a soul. And the more that we can keep that, and I understand that's kind of the argument against robo-umps, is that it loses that element, but you can mesh it. It's just about getting it right, and you can still keep the humanity inside of it. So I hope we can find that compromise.
I totally agree 100,000% on that. Like, to me, part of the enjoyment of the game is it's played by people. And otherwise, like, I think you lose the fan base if you don't have people to root for. Like, I love the idea of K-struts and emotion and, whatever, like the one-on-one battles between a pitcher and a hitter is, it's almost like a cage match. Like, give me that. Give me trash talk. Give me guys that, or guys that don't. Like, I like Corey Kluber when he's pitching, and then the no emotion stuff's fun too. But like, I appreciate it, all the differences. Don't make it cookie cutter.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more there. That is a good transition, I think, from going from a brand which might be robotic to the human underneath. And I'm sure there are a lot of basic questions. I see this all the time when people are jumping into Twitter for the first time. They think it's all these different things, and it might be helpful just to kind of quickly go over some elements that say, hey, this is maybe not what you're going to do, or there's some basic questions. So for example, what would you say when it comes to using hashtags? Would you suggest when you're putting out tweets initially, should you be using hashtags? Should you be tagging people, or should you not?
I generally don't do it that much. I find that, and I don't even tag players that much unless it's a specific question or something like that. Only because I feel like it might bother them. I don't like, my deal is they have to find me, and if they want to interact, they can. I am there to help them, not to bug them. Right. Like, to me, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me. I think you're right, though. I mean, there are certain occasions when we're doing something that we know that they would appreciate. Like, if it's like, here's like, a minute and a half of this guy, and like, we know that, they've been wanting this, or like some cool stuff, and then, all right, then that's okay. But they just in general, just saying, hey, this person had a good night or something like that. They don't need that notification. Yeah, and I find that they find out anyway, because somebody is going to tag them in the reply, and they're going to, or they're just following me anyway, and they'll just say. But I never did that. Like, that wasn't a way that I wanted to expand my base, because it really wasn't what I was about. So it just let it happen. So I guess that's the point. To me, is if you're doing good stuff and you do it enough, people will end up finding you, I think.
Sure. So it can be really hard if you don't have some sort of initial community, right? If you don't have anything else promoting, pushing to it. Because if you're just pushing it out into the ether, well, it'll be kind of hard for people to find it. That's why we sometimes see those hashtags and everything. I've seen my experience, especially inside of baseball Twitter, hashtags aren't really touched. They aren't really used that often, sometimes when it comes to teams, but I wouldn't. I essentially, if you see a tweet with a lot of hashtags, I think a lot of people just kind of turn it off. I
think it's a newbie error, right? I mean, it seems like that's what people do. It's too much. Look at me, or somebody find my, like, yeah. I am definitely. I totally totally agree with you on that.
So when you first started, I mean, you had 0 followers. Do you remember the process of what that was like getting your first 1,000?
Yeah, just putting out a lot of like I never seriously, I swear. I think I got a shout out early on because I'm friends with Lance Wheeler, who had who it was like 12,000 followers at that time, and he shouted me out as somebody. He knew me for a while. I told you from the Let's Talk Pitching days and stuff. Um, and he gave me a shout out, and I got like 100 followers, and I was like, oh my, I told my wife, I was like, what do I do? Like, I have 100 people watching what I say. Like, I never thought that. Like, now I've got to entertain people and have them learn. Like, I felt I added, I don't know, pressure about doing something.
Sure.
Like now I just put stuff out there and I don't really care.
Right. Well, no, you get numb to that. Right.
Yeah. I still don't get numb. And I've talked about this to other folks. Like if any pitcher that I have a lot of respect for, which is most pitchers, says something was cool, asks me a question, does like it, right, exactly. Like that doesn't ever get old, ever.
Never.
If it does, I'm stopping. Like that should.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. But yeah, having that, it is really important to recognize, yeah, you get 100 followers, that's huge. That's a really, really good thing. And to never lose that fire to it, that excitement of it, because if you do exactly what you're saying, like then it's, what am I doing here? What's the point of it? So it's really important to build on those moments, definitely. I mean, I remember my first 1,000. I think I got really, really lucky in many ways for my first 1,000. I think I put out, I mean, I was just doing GIFs. I just did that, but I certainly in the beginning would find like beat writers talking about a game, and I would say, oh, really nasty pitch from this thing, and I would make the GIF and give it to them inside the reply of it or something, like, here's what it was, and I would do it in that way. And I, as much as I want to say like, no, don't bother anyone, don't actually go off, you have to throw yourself into these conversations. Don't do it obnoxiously, like, don't demand their attention, but just be in the room, as much as you can.
I think that's a really good point. And it's hard to describe that, like how you do it. But like, if you're coming at it, look at me, I think that's the wrong way to do it. If you're helping somebody, like helping someone write an article, or you're saying, hey, I look at it this way, or here's that thing you were looking for.
Right.
That's also like, I think doing everything out of a point of service versus what's in it for you. At the worst, you're helping somebody, right?
Yep.
At the best, they reciprocate and you develop a following. But it was never about developing. To me, it was just about doing the right thing all the time, as much as I could do it. Occasionally there would be arguments I would pick just to mostly learn, but sometimes there were just people that deserved it. And those ended up being, we were arguing about mechanics or something like that. But I also would say, don't sensationalize, because people then end up, they can't tell who the jerk is in that situation a lot of times. So I just try to avoid those things, and I'll either block them, mute them, or go away from them, because it's not my thing. Like, I don't do that. I'm not going to attack anybody.
There's no reason to. There's no reason to jump into any of those things. If you're gonna get it, and it stinks. It's just the gift of being anonymous is, well, people are going to use that in some ways, and it's annoying. It's terrible. Muting is the greatest thing ever. They don't know that they've been muted. You just don't get to deal with it anymore.
It is. And, luckily I find that most people are pretty good. I'd say maybe a couple times a year, someone gets on my nerves because they're, maybe more than that, maybe a handful. Sure. But most of the time, like if somebody's really asking a question or challenging me, I always take it from the position that I could be wrong too. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I'll read your stuff, and I try to learn something every day. I will ask questions. Alex Fast and I have this ongoing thing about a variety of different things, including trying to measure deception that we were talking about yesterday. Man,
that's like the hardest. That's the hardest.
It's impossible. Yeah. But it's a key. So what do you do?
It's this weird, like unquantifiable thing that we know exists, but how do we actually do anything with it and display it is such a weird process. I think it's VR. That's where the future is. Once we are able to actually replicate a person's pitch and then put on the glasses or whatever, the goggles, and be like, oh, that's what it is. We won't quite
It
get there.
very well could be that. I think Hawkeye will have something to do with it. Being able to tell yeah, exactly. Being able to tell when the hitter actually reacts to different
Yes.
pitches and when they do their typical routine, when their mechanics are out of sync from somebody. Because I totally agree. It's really impossible. I mean, almost impossible to measure. But it's like everybody that's played baseball understands it. This guy's hard to hit for some reason. His stuff doesn't spin ridiculously. It's, he's not doing anything out of the ordinary, but that ball gets up on you quicker.
Right.
And we, as stat guys, as analysts, you look at it and you're like, oh, they're just making this doesn't exist because I can't measure it. We did the same thing with the seam shifted wake stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, no, balls can't move twice, or they're moving consistent. Like, now we've been able to prove that they don't. But because we couldn't measure it before, we assumed it didn't exist. I think we need to understand that players aren't stupid. What they're seeing actually does exist, and we need to come up with a way to measure it versus saying that, I think science and analytics and everything, we try to explain everything, which is great. But there are things that we can't explain, and we shouldn't assume that it doesn't exist because we can't explain it.
Dunning-Kruger effect, right? The more you know about it, the more you know you don't know things.
So Fast and I were talking about that, and I feel like we don't know way more than we know right now. And I think too many people are parading it out like we know all this stuff, and we really don't.
We are getting expressions of those things.
Right.
Like, oh, cool, he has a swing strike rate above this or whatever. That's okay. That's really good. I don't know exactly how he's doing that, but this is doing that, and that's great. But yeah, it's such a, man, pitching. There's so much about, like, look, I know you've interacted, I'm sure you have, with many people talking about injuries and how mechanics are supposed to go, without putting any names out there or anything like that, about, how the arm is supposed to look and everything like that, and arm circles and everything, where the foot's supposed to land. How do you sift through all of that? It can be really hard. There are certain times when it does make sense, but it doesn't. Do you kind of just ignore all of those things, or are there certain mechanics that you felt have been more, more aligned with what you're thinking than others?
I started out thinking that it was I assumed that mechanics had a lot to do with injuries. Like, that was my assumption that it did. And the more I look at it, the less I agree with that. Because you see people, when you think about it, like, everybody's running styles are different. I run like a duck. I don't run like I do.
What?
Yeah. I run kind of like a duck. I'll admit it. That's not the
duck run. Wait.
And they waddle, and like my legs are terrible.
Do you have a GIF? I mean, Pitching Ninja's got.
Dude, I will never show you a GIF of me running. That will never happen. It is never ever going to.
I have a new goal in life, Rob Friedman.
That is a bad goal to have. It will never happen, and I will never run. So that's
see.
Tough luck.
What we can do. But yeah, so you run like a duck. Okay.
I run like a duck. But everybody's built differently. Like I think we got too set in like having these answers. People get injured. Like, we don't look for mechanics when you're running in hoops and you tear your ACL. It's not. We don't assume that was because of mechanics. We assume maybe you slip. Sometimes it's a one pitch thing. Sometimes it's just an accumulation of stress. We don't know your workout schedule, what happened to you. Like, maybe you were compensating, you hurt yourself, and you ended up, doing something. We just don't know. Yeah. And I think we like again, this is exactly what we were talking about with deception. I think sometimes we want to explain this stuff, so we assume that there are answers. And I think the more you know, the more you come to the conclusion that it's really, really hard. I don't know, like, I've talked to the driveline guys, and I believe they came to that conclusion. Like, you know what? We do all this. Yeah, you just don't know.
And I will say this a lot, like, it is such a small percentage of how many people actually get to perform at the major league level. I'm not saying, like, do all the terrible things. I mean, there's certain mechanical things that I think in some ways that are, all right, do not overemphasize, like, your twisting and all that kind of stuff. We know that stuff. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're talking about, like, the arm circle things. I used to very firmly believe, like, if you shorten it up, you're putting extra tension, and you don't want to do that. And then here I am seeing all these guys have incredible success doing that all of a sudden. And I'm now pushing that away because do what you need to do to get to the major league level. And we don't really actually know if that is the correlation to injury. So just do that. Do whatever you need to do to succeed.
Literally, that is exactly right. Like,
Right.
do whatever you need to do to succeed. There's more than one way. If it hurts, don't do it.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. But yeah, like when everybody was shortening up their arms, then you start realizing like, hey, some people move much more efficiently when they do. And historically, like Billy Wagner, very short arm action. He just threw differently than other folks. And now you're seeing other people intentionally doing it because they were taught, like we taught kids this long arm circle, right?
Oh man, I wish I never had it because I'm 6'4". You have long arms. Use all of it.
Right.
And I was like, but I don't. I want to. And I found myself when I would shorten up, I would feel stronger on it. And I was like, but I'm not supposed to do that, so I'm not going to do that. I had the worst mechanics, by the way, Rob, in college. Oh my god, they were terrible.
But that's probably because you were taught not to be you too. Like part of it is be yourself. Everybody moves differently. There's some things that you can help expedite things. Like I think, using plyo balls and stuff like that can help you feel what that feels like. Using things like core velocity belt to help your lower half could help you feel that. There's a pocket. There's a bunch of things that can help you feel that stuff. But if it doesn't work for you, if it makes you throw slower, less accurate, whatever it is, you own your career. And that is like my goal on Twitter and everything else is to put the information out there for free and help people find, because they own their career. If an MLB pitcher asks me to help them with a grip, abso-freaking-lutely, I'm going to do it. If a high school pitcher, I have a Dropbox for free because I want people to help themselves. And I think too much we depend on coaches and everything else to help you. And that is the bottom line. If anybody takes anything from this, just own it. Like it's your career, not your coach's career. Teach yourself and look at, and to try different things.
I love that. So going back to Twitter specifically, you tweet a lot, and I just can't believe that it's just you. I can't.
I will swear on anything you want me to swear on. It's just me, and now I'm ashamed.
No. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think. Look, you tweet a lot in a good way that like, there's no way there's someone that can actually maintain all of this, and I'm just more impressed now that it's you. Have you found yourself, I mean, since 2014 to now, I mean, as far as your schedule goes, how have you changed that to adapt essentially how your account has grown?
I'd say baseball season, I don't do anything like other than watch baseball games. I constantly am looking for cool stuff. One thing that helps is I always read, like, I know some people turn off notifications. I don't. I read.
I don't either.
Yeah. Like I want to hear what people are thinking. If this sucks, if it doesn't suck, if they want to see more of something, if they have questions, like DMs, I turned off for a while. I mean, so
good.
Really?
Negative DMs.
All right. They weren't negative. It was just a lot.
I got one from a verified account, which is hilarious, but I'm not going to talk about that one.
Yeah, it can get really like to me that part can get like I feel obligated to respond, and just like I do with that. So you text me, I'm gonna respond right away. You email me, I'm gonna respond right away. I'm like a router. Like I get stuff, but it's the same thing with turning around stuff during games. Like I pride myself on getting it done quickly. And on me being the only, like my name's on my account. I am not I'm not having someone else tweet on my account because it's my personality, good or bad. If I say something stupid, it's on me. I'm not saying I wouldn't delete it. Like if I say something really stupid, I've done it a handful of times.
Of course.
And I'm just like, that's not my brand. It's not who I am. That didn't come off right. I'm deleting that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I do all my own stuff.
I mean, I think that's also a really good point is, don't. So those that are trying to really establish themselves on Twitter, right? They're trying to do that thing. I kind of want to nail in, in the last 15 minutes here, really focus on how to do that and what lessons you've learned and tips to have. And one that you're really pointing out there is, you are showcasing yourself and make sure that you can curate it. Look, even, you're saying 100 followers, that is a lot of people, 500, 1,000. And how many hundreds of thousands you have now. I lost count Raul, I'll be honest. It's like 250. Is that underneath it?
Yeah, I think that's about it, and
Okay.
that amazes me. Like I still, I gotta say, I wake up and if I'm tweeting something, I've gotten numb to the like. There's no like, oh my God, should I do this or not? Like I'll say stupid things, like I just do,
Right. Right.
because I'm gonna be myself. But yeah, it amazes me. Like that is not
I
what I
mean,
ever started to do.
it does amaze us is what I'm trying to get out there. But the point of that was, look, you're still curating yourself, right? And it's important to put out what you want to. Don't feel obligated at any point to do something that isn't you.
Exactly. Your point could not be better. I think it's about being authentic.
Yes.
Whether you're a player, a Twitterer, or a person, like you can sense when someone's being fake. Like if you're doing something that you're trying to be a badass and it doesn't come up like it doesn't come across right.
Yep.
And that's one of those things that I've told pitchers too about mental game stuff is you may want to pitch like Max Scherzer and be that, but it may not be you. It may not be who you are.
Yeah.
So just adopt the mentality that is you and run with that. So same thing. Yeah, absolutely. Not comparing Twitter to Max Scherzer.
No, but it's a good point. Like we all can't be Max Scherzer, and that's okay.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
as much as I want to be Max Scherzer, man,
I know. So do I.
good. It's
He
such a
is
good
so
start.
good. Hey, so much fun to watch.
You know, I honestly I think of the Mike Messina gif. You know the one. Every
Yeah.
single time I think of Max Scherzer, honestly.
The-
I,
and Scherzer had his moment when he did the no.
yeah,
Yeah.
right, yeah. Thanks for cleaning that one up for me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, when you're tweeting things out, just make sure that you're not adapting to what you think Twitter is. I mean, actually, I remember I used to sell guitars at Guitar Center, my first job out of college. I thought I had to sell a certain way, right? I thought it was, you had to be this, the customer service rep and like, how you doing today? What can I help you with? And like fake the truth almost. And over time I learned, oh, no. Selling is just information. You're just presenting it. You're just being knowledgeable and being genuine with it. And that carries through everything else. That I look back at that and I think as much of a hellish experience that was, it really taught me a lot and allowed me to understand, yeah, being genuine, as you say, is a really, really great point.
I try to tell people that even if they're doing sales in general, like
Right.
if you're selling and you're trying to sell like I do, it's just not going to work. Sell like yourself, convince yourself, do like you would do to do that. And if somebody doesn't want to buy it, that's life. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's
Oh
going to buy
yeah.
everything.
So many times.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Stand
It's
by.
a great profession though. Like learning that way. I love people that if you have to deal in retail stuff, you can deal with anybody.
I feel like everyone should have a retail
They
job.
should.
Even if it's like a month, whatever, it's understand what that's like. I think you'll learn a lot of new things about it.
Yeah.
But yes, sup, bro, wanna shred? Check out these strings, brah. Nick probably thinks Ben Brown. No, absolutely not. But all right, so I know this is very nebulous, but as far as you've grown massively over 7 years. What kind of lessons have you learned, and would you suggest for anyone else trying to establish their own Twitter brand?
I would say be consistent, be yourself, and do it and think about other people. Don't think about yourself
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of ways. Like I think if you have a bigger purpose in doing what you're doing, it helps, and I think it comes across. So that to me is a big thing, and it's why I started Flat Ground was basically doing that, like taking my followers that were coaches and players that can help, coaches that can help, and coaches that were recruiting to help a whole generation of folks. I just feel like do it for some reason, like a bigger reason than just
Right.
being a troll. Like trolls are
Yeah.
the worst.
Absolutely. Terrible. But you're right. So it's like you're not just tweeting to be a person. It has to be a niche. There has to be something that you find in, and yeah. All I do is I talk about starting pitchers. That's all I do. And you started off, yeah, here are the gifts, here are the grips, here's all these things, and that is your niche. And while initially to the outside, it's like, oh, it needs to be more broad or something like that. No, it doesn't. It can be more broad as it goes on. You can improve that, but finding that group of actually you being of value in some way that is different than anything else. I've seen a lot of people across the industries just try and replicate exactly what someone else is doing. And, even like the video game world, if you're playing the same game as like, I don't know, Ninja or Shroud or something like that, why would you they would just go watch them. You got to provide something that is different and unique to you. And while, yeah, sure, it's not as massive as them, you're just starting off. You got to do something new and different.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I don't know. I mean, I think some of it's luck, and some of it is just keeping at it, holding yourself to a really like. This is another thing. Like, if you're going to do something, hold yourself to a high standard in doing
Yes.
it, and that standard is going to keep growing too. Like, I remember early stuff I'd put out that I'd never put out today, but I think that's important in anything you do, is to hold yourself to a really high standard and constantly challenge yourself, and don't think you're done. Don't try to copy someone, because that becomes really obvious to everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Be yourself, and try to do something really good.
Yeah. Oh, lots of thoughts there. But yeah, as far as like content goes, so you've actually spread off. Like, you had the initial Twitter account, and then you developed a flat ground app. You actually, congratulations, by the way, joining Momentum. Like, can you get a taste of kind of what will be coming soon? I know you've done these amazing pitching interviews so far. Marcus Stroman involved, Lance McCullers. There is a process there. Right? It's not just okay. So you got to actually expand from Twitter. Can you work through kind of what it's like to add those extra elements, and maybe a hint of what's ahead?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and I did this mostly I do all my stuff on Twitter, as I mentioned. Editing takes so much time, bouncing content ideas off folks. The Momentum people had the same view on growing the game that I did, which is let the players shine, and not like, I don't look at it as me to shine. Like, my job is to give the players a platform to be themselves, and players that you might not like. I'll ask questions, but never got like, I'm not a media person. Like, It's just not what I do. Other people do it, and that's great. Like, that's just not what I do. I don't have any training in it. My job is
you do a great job, by the way. I'm not gonna let you just no. I think your interviews are really good. You do a great job allowing them to express their stuff. You have knowledge of it as well. I think you do a really good job, Rob.
That is really good to hear, because like, I do it like, I'm just I have fun. Like, that stuff is great fun for me. And again, like, I'll let them look at it after you're done and say, is there anything that you didn't say that you wanted to say, or said a wrong way, or you want to take it? Because it's not about that. Like, I don't want to put up a 8-second clip that creates this controversy, unless they want to create that controversy.
Sure.
So one of the things that I want to do, and this is like in light of my flat ground stuff and pitching ninja stuff, and finding a bunch of players out there, is we tentatively called this America's Got Fire, but finding the best unsigned pitcher in the world, actually, and doing a whole thing where we start with a pool of, people send me videos. Right. And then we have a bracket where we start voting on them, get the backstory of why they haven't been found. Maybe they got good later. Maybe they had an injury. Maybe they just, they washed out or whatever. And developing that, where you have a, kind of a season-long thing, like almost a reality show, but a reality show where the winner, like, I'm going to find the next. Yeah. Right. How cool would that be?
Amazing. Oh,
I think that would be cool.
You got to do that. Please do that now.
I think we're going to do it. Like, I've at least sketched it out as something that I want to do, and nobody said no so far.
Okay, that's a good thing. That's a
right. Well, so that's the other thing that I do, and this may be along the social media grounds. I don't like surrounding myself with people that are just going to agree. Like to me, I love hearing, you know what, I wouldn't do that, or I'd change. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think too many people surround themselves with people that make them feel good. I want to be off. I want to have people I don't agree with at all on anything.
You want people to be honest with you, because then you're not going to improve. You're not going to understand the details, the little things that allow you to separate from everybody else, like production values, for example. Or I know that I have a ton of crutch words when I do podcasts, and I need to eradicate them as much as I can.
And you notice it. You notice it probably, and other people don't notice it. Like, it's one of those things. I'll say awesome, or do like, it's just a place filler. It's me. Like, I don't want to get rid of everything, but you still you always try to be better. Like, but I want feedback, and I try to make myself like I will deliberately poke fun at myself to get people to or poke fun at somebody else so that they poke fun back and I can hear their real opinion versus like, yeah, Ninja, everything you do is awesome. Like, yeah, you know what? Some things I do aren't awesome.
Well, I mean, as long as you're consistently trying to get better, that's one of the biggest elements when you're starting off here. Is look. You don't have to copy word for word what other people do, but really find the people that you like the most, identify what you like about them, and then incorporate it. It's not copying. It's not trying to be a clone of them, but figure out the details. Understand that that's what makes these things work is the little details and really, really fine tuning those as you go.
I got to admit, like I go down pitcher list every once in a while. I'm like, did I forget somebody? Is there somebody that I don't like? I am not giving enough attention to that you have somewhat listed on your, like, I want to make sure I'm balanced and I'm not playing favorites and I'm like, or maybe you saw something that I'm missing and I want to know it.
All the time you have someone like, oh man, I didn't realize like how good that slider was. Oh my God. Okay. And then I got to go back and think like, am I doing this wrong?
Right.
But yeah. So Rob, I got a couple more minutes. I want to ask about one other thing. What was it like getting verified on Twitter? That's a huge moment.
So that happened when I got invited. Like, so this is one of the cool things. I got invited to the World Series on Twitter. Yeah. So that was sick. The Cespedes Barbecue guys, Jessica Kleinschmidt, we were all there, like in the, and one of the things I said, wouldn't it be cool if I was verified? Like I'm going here on Twitter, and then they're like, wait, you're not? And yeah, I ended up getting,
so I ended up getting you before it. I thought it was,
yeah.
My impression was like, oh, you're getting verified and here you come. And you're like, hey, can you verify me?
Yeah. I like ask because I mean, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Oh, of course.
But I was in the car. I remember seeing that. I'm like, oh, like it wasn't a goal I had, but I was like, I mean, I don't know. Like I thought it would be kind of cool. Like, I don't know. It's not as cool as you think. I mean, there are a lot of,
look from the outside, we were all shocked that you weren't verified yet.
Yeah.
So it was nice to get. So it was that simple. You just you were in that car with them, like, hey guys, can you do it? Like, oh yeah, hold on, and they just.
That's a little bit of that, yeah. There was. I don't know if I'm supposed to say that, but yeah, it was. That's kind of what happened. I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if I was?
Well, that was the World Series game, I believe, with the Nationals in Houston. Is that right?
Yeah, it was the last. I think it was like the Verlander was pitching. It was like the last baseball game I went to in person, I think, like other than college ball. And college ball starts today. I am ready. I'm firing up my gift machine for some live baseball. This is going to be fun. I'm excited.
It's happening. We're like, we have spring training next week, I believe, or maybe it's a week after. But we're so close, Rob. And I can't wait. I can't wait for like 162 games.
Dude, the Stroman sitting behind DeGrom yesterday was like to me, that's the epitome of baseball for me. Like it's not even nasty pitches, it's just enjoying the game and that starting up again. I love going on the field and smelling all the grass and stuff. Like this is fun, man.
Yeah. I mean, actually, I never really thought about that, but yeah, it's like Stroman joining the Mets. I mean, he was the ace of the Blue Jays, right? This is the first time that he has someone like that, like DeGrom, on his team that he can just sit and admire. I never really thought about that before.
And he said that. He's like, dude, this is the best pitcher in baseball, and I'm going to watch what he does. I can't copy it, but I'm going to learn little things that he does, little tricks that he does to help me, and then just admire him. Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, who would like? I mean, he's one of those guys that yeah, exactly.
I loved it so much. Such a great clip. But all right, it's 1:00. That means our time is up. But Rob, this was so fantastic. Really, thank you so much for being a part of this. It's great. My pleasure. To talk to you. And,
such a good cause too. I love this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, Feeding America, like 50% of everything we raise goes straight to them. So go to go.rallyup.com/PitchCon. Support what you can. We got 162 games in spring training this year. I can't wait. Let's do this. Let's have a fantastic 2021 season. Can't wait for all your stuff on Momentum. But thanks so much for being a part of this, Rob.
Dude, you're awesome. And let's stay in touch during the season.
Absolutely.
Cool,
Take
man.
care, man.
Bye.
All right, that was Pitching Ninja. What a fantastic conversation. That was super, super fun.